Hello students, welcome to your Noodletools tutorial, and for CCA new students this is going to show you how to create your Noodletools account. Only if you are a new student you're going to create a personal ID. All other students, if you have trouble logging in, please see us in the library and we can quickly get your password reset. Again, do not create a personal ID if you are a returning student. Please try to log into your current account, and if you can't, come see us in the library. For new students, you're going to create a personal ID. If you are off campus, it will ask you for a username and password, which is CCA123, and the password is Eagles. If you are on campus when you create your account, there will be no sign-in. This is the screen you'll see, so when you're a student or a patron, choose your expected year of graduation. Please make your personal ID and your password match the way you log in to CCA. For example, first initial, whole last name. So make it match if you can. Sometimes if it's already taken by another user, you may have to vary it slightly. And then you can fill in your initials and the last 4 digits of your phone number and register for that new account. When you sign in, just a quick review of using Noodletools and let you know that Noodletools is just a place to store your research. You can use it for any subject, whether your teacher assigns it or not. It's a place for you to keep you organized and to a place that you can always go back to and keep your research. So here, looking at your old projects, if it's from previous years, you do have the choice to archive. I don't suggest you delete your projects because you may, believe it or not, want to go back to them. You may have found a really good source in a project from previous years and you may want to look at it again. So if you archive that project, it will go down and actually hide it, and you can go back to your archive projects at a later date. So you can archive your projects from previous years and start fresh. And then new students, you'll all be starting fresh by creating a new project. NHD requires that you use the MLA format, so you would choose that. Looking at your citation levels, it just gives you more choices, that more advanced, so that we recommend elementary, middle, and high school. Choose advanced, and that gives you more citation choices when you go to cite your sources. And then you can choose your history or the title of your project. I'm going to go ahead and use the high school NHD test project just as an example. So once you create that project, this is your dashboard. This is where you would fill in your research question, your thesis or main claim, and like I said, you can use it for different subjects, so you see hypotheses that you would think of for science if you're doing a science project. Here for your history, you can see a 30-day log of all the work you've done on this project, and your teacher can see that as well, so it helps keep you accountable for the work you're doing over the next few weeks. Under sharing, many times your teacher will ask you to share the project with a Dropbox, and they will tell you the name of that Dropbox. For the most part, it starts with your teacher's last name. So for example, if I type Larson, I'm going to get all the Dropboxes associated with Miss Larson's classes, so I want to be careful and make sure I choose the right block, and then I can share my project. It will ask you if you want to share your Google Docs paper. Not every project, it depends on the teacher. If you have a process paper that's associated with it, if you are going to do a paper as well, you can check that box. If you ever forget to check the box and it comes up here and you'll have 2 checks under your teacher's name, you'll have another choice that says share my paper with these Dropboxes as well. So if you forgot to share your Google Docs the first time, you can always add it later. A little bit about how to navigate Noodletools is here's the dashboard for every project. You also have your bibliography where you're going to add all your sources, and then electronic note cards, and this will connect to your paper, which is in Google Docs. So if you click there, it will automatically go to your Google Docs. It will ask you to sign in if you haven't signed in, and remember that's your same sign in as Haiku. Your Gmail sign in at student.ccaeagles.org. You can see it automatically creates a document for me with the same title as my NHD project. Whatever I titled it, it gives it the same title, and there you can see your name in parentheses. You have the same shortcuts. You are in your Drive, so you can go back and forth. So just remember, the next time you're in your Google Drive and you're like, where did that paper come from? I didn't make that. Remember, it's created automatically from your Noodletools. So there's a project, and there's the paper. So going back to your dashboard, I also want to remind you to check My Account. This is very important because we changed email addresses this year. Students, I'd like you to check your Google account ID and make sure it matches Haiku. So it should be at student.ccaeagles.org, and check that box that this is a Google Apps for Education account. That's important to make sure your paper is shared correctly, and you can save your profile there. So once you've saved your profile and you're back on your project page, I want to show you on the left-hand side as well. There's components to navigate. You have Works Cited, you have your note cards and outline, and your paper links are there as well. If you are sharing with another student, I would definitely suggest that you name your project with your initials or your name. You can look up another person here. So if you're sharing with your friend, you need to know their username, which is usually their first initial, whole last name. So like J. Smith, if you're sharing, you can look up the name there and you can share it. You are responsible for your own research, but that does give you a chance to see each other's projects. So if you're sharing resources or if you're able to make note cards on the same source. Just be careful that you're adding it to your own project, so that's why you should put your name or your initials in the name of your project to keep that straight. The to-do list down here is optional. You may want to make yourself a to-do list, including due dates and things like that. And then the comments down here would be from your teacher. If they make comments online, you can see them there. All right, so beginning with Noodletools, you want to have some research and ready to go. Being tech savvy, going back and forth between two tabs or two windows. I've already done some research on Rosa Parks here. I'm using the Biography and Context, which is a database through the Broward County Library. So I've already had that research done, and I want to make sure as soon as I find a good source, I want to add it to my bibliography. I don't want to lose that source if I'm working in the library, I'm working at home, and I have to stop and do something else. So as soon as I find a good source, I want to add it to my bibliography. Here I'm going to look and see, when I go to create my citation, what type of source is it. These are the most commonly cited that show up at the top, but of course you have all these other choices. And as you're doing National History Day, especially if you want to compete, you're going to want to be looking for all different types of sources. This one right now that we found is a database. We know it is because we had to log into the library to use it. Sometimes you have to be a little bit of a detective to tell what kind of source you're finding. So I'm ready to create my citation. Looking back at this source, I need to see, even though it's Biography and Context, where did this one part come from? And I can see it came from Contemporary Black Biography. So this is going to be a reference source and even tells you what books that they reference to find this information. So when I'm looking at my creation or my citation, I can look here and see where does it come from. Was it a journal, a magazine? As I scan through, I can see, okay, here it is. It's a reference source. Now also when I go here, I'm going to see it automatically came up under database, but I do have choices: print, website, ebooks, etc. So I can change it if I'd like to with those different choices. Now I could go here and I could fill all this information in one by one. If it has a red asterisk, that means I have to put it there. It's very important. It's required. But also there's extra information. You can see some extra boxes. Extra information is always good, especially if you want to compete for National History Day. But another great thing about using sources that are recommended, especially by the library, is always look for citation tools. And I can see here that yes, Biography and Context does have a citation tool, and that means it's going to do the citation for me. So I can go ahead and copy and paste. It's in the MLA format. So I'm going to copy it, and I can do a quick cite. Every citation on Noodletools, I have a choice. I can do a quick cite if it's already done, copy and paste, or I could fill it in myself. Well, of course, we'd rather copy and paste, so I'm going to do that here. And this is where you do it. Look for your little red asterisk. You have to look for that box. And then I'm ready to paste in my citation. Don't forget, for any NHD, you have to do an annotated bibliography. What is an annotation? Well, if you don't know, it's right here. It'll tell you what an annotation is. And also you can write here basically what you learned from the source. Why is it a good source? And that's just, again, for accountability, showing that you did actually use the source, you read through it, and you can tell in 1 or 2 sentences why it was a good source and what you learned from it. So now we're ready to submit. Every citation has to be submitted. That's like your save button, so don't forget to do that. It's very important. And there it is. It tells you you have a reference source, where you got the information from. And here you can see I have no note cards. I haven't associated any note cards with this source. And that's the next thing we're going to go to. So on a note card, since we're doing fast forward research, I'm just going to show you quickly how to start a new note card. Again, with Noodletools, you have all these tools that you can use or not use. So everybody likes to learn a little differently. Everybody researches differently. So don't get overwhelmed by all these tools. It's just to help you be a better researcher. You have 3 main parts of every note card. Title is the most important part. Everyone has to have a title. So you need to come up with your own type of maybe a little bit of shorthand or numbering system, because you know how it works in Word. You can't save 2 documents with the same name. Same thing with note cards. You can't save any 2 note cards with the same name. So this is going to tell you where the direct quotation goes. So if you found a really good quote, or you found just a little bit of information in this article that you want to use, remember it's made for a chunk of information, you can choose that little bit or that quote or that picture and you can copy and paste it, because Noodletools help you stay honest and true, ethical researcher, that you're saying this is a quotation and now I can paraphrase or summarize in my own words over here. This is my own words to remind you that yes, you do have to write it yourself. You have to show your own thinking. You don't want to be accused of plagiarism or lying or cheating or stealing someone else's words. So direct quotations on the left, your own words on the right to help you remember. It gives you those little cues, and also you have these how do I do this all throughout Noodletools. So it's like having a teacher on your shoulder to remind you. On the bottom, my ideas is optional. It's up to you if you have notes to yourself or something you know that you want to do next in your research that can help guide your research. Up here as well, you can use different tags, just like hashtags. You guys are all about that. You can make your own tags and you can go ahead and label it that way. Your source is going to be your most important part, because where did you get this information from? We've only put one thing on our bibliography, so we only have one choice. But obviously as your sources grow, that list will grow. And then a URL is also very important. You want to be able to go back to that source at any time, so you can copy that URL, put it on your note card so you can go back to that source. And then again, you want to save so you do not lose your information. Your note cards will always pop up here on the left, and you can move 10 at a time, or as you move them out, you can sort them, you can stack them. You can do little color codes on the Mac. I have to control click it one time for it to glow, and then I can go back and I can do different colors, different tags that will help keep me organized. Because you can imagine, as you have 20 or 30 note cards on your desktop, how are you going to stay organized? You want to take them, you can pile them up, and once you put one on top of the other, it will ask you to give it a name. So for example, for this, you might put them all in one stack that show leadership, another stack that shows legacy, and then also when you click on it once, you have these choices where you can double click it and open it, you can edit it, or you can delete it. This part is for your outline. Right here, you can start a new outline if you have a process paper you're going to begin, and that will go right into your Google Docs, another way to keep you organized. So that was just a quick review on how to use Noodletools, including your electronic note cards, your bibliography, your outline, and your Google Docs paper. If you have questions, you can always come see us in the library.